Spider-Man pre-release coming out very, very soon. And I do mean Spider-Man pre-release. Marvel's Spider-Man, not legally distinct through the Omen paths. We're not going to be talking about those cards today because we're talking about paper today. So if you have not caught a pre-release video before, basically the whole idea is, you know, if you don't have hours and hours to consume a bunch of pre-release content, this is your video. You know, it's your 10-minute one-stop shop. If you're on your way to pre-release and you're just like, hey, what's going on in this set? What's good? What should I know about? That's what we're going to cover today. And the nice thing about getting to know this set is it's small. There's 180 cards. It's much smaller than normal. So not as much to talk about this time. Let's just jump in. First things first, let's just do a rundown of the archetypes because there's only 5 of them. Again, small set, only 5 archetypes. First one here is green-white web slinging. So web slinging says you can cast this spell for its web slinging cost if you return a tapped creature you control to your hand. And most often, the reason you want to web sling is it's cheaper than whatever the mana cost is. So yo, Spider-Man India here, 5 mana, but web slinging only for 3 mana. And I found this archetype to be pretty supported, pretty fun, pretty good. You know, most of the archetypes, or all of the archetypes, are fairly well supported. There's not really room for them not to be supported because it's, you know, it's such a small set. Both these gold cards are good. I really like Spider-Man India and Spider-Girl Legacy Hero, which is a really good payoff and enabler, right? So it's like a 2/2 flyer on your turn, and when you pick it up, it makes a 1/1, so it's like a very, very good thing for web slinging. Some other things to look for web slinging synergies. So I think one of the best commons for this deck, if not the best, is City Pigeon. Single mana for a 1/1 flyer, and when it leaves the battlefield, you make a food token. And, you know, of course, leaves the battlefield, that includes web slinging. So a very cheap thing that will get your web slinging going early. There's also a handful of vehicles, not a ton, but like 3 or 4 vehicles in the set. So vehicles are another way to get your creatures tapped, so you can web sling them. Also cards like Flash Thompson, which help you tap your own creatures. 2-mana 2/2 Flash. When it comes in, tap or untap a creature. And if you can, you know, another layer on top of this is you want things that are good to pick up. So something like this Gallant Citizen, for example, 2-mana 1/1. When it enters, draw a card. Not the easiest thing to get tapped, right? Because, you know, you're often going to have to throw this into a vehicle or something. A 1/1 doesn't get in very easily. But if you can pick this up with a web slinging card, it feels very good. Next up, we've got green-red for mana value and greater. So it's, you know, big things, basically. And it's the classic, well, when you cast a 4-mana spell, I do a thing. So Rhino Barreling Brute is one of the gold cards. 7 mana, 6/7, Vigilant Trample Haste. That when it attacks, if you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater this turn, draw a card. So, you know, the joke here is it's a hasty 7-drop, so you're going to draw a card. And I think this archetype has the least synergy amongst all of the archetypes, but I think it's just pretty solid as a good beatdown deck. It's got a really good curve of this Spider Manifestation, just like 2-mana ramp spell, into Professional Wrestler, which is a 4-mana 4/4 that when it enters, you make a treasure, and also can't be blocked by more than one thing. So, you know, just imagine going like Manifestation into Wrestler on 3, untap this Manifestation, because it untaps when you cast a big spell, cast another 2-drop, right? So there's some explosive starts to be had. I also think red-green's a really good home for just like a red-green stompy trample plus combat trick kind of deck. So there's this Grow Extra Arms card, which is +4/+4. And there's 2 trampling commons, 2 2-drops actually that trample in red-green. So yeah, like if you find yourself in red-green and sealed, because that's just where your power is, you know, most of your bombs are red-green. If you're looking for some direction in this archetype that isn't super direction heavy, like yeah, I would maybe look towards tricks and trample creatures as that direction. Then we've got blue-black. So blue-black is it's a bunch of things. It's like a villain deck. It's a deck that uses the connive mechanic, which is a mechanic that says, when this creature, usually it's enters, but sometimes it attacks, whenever you do a thing, you connive, and conniving is draw a card, then discard a card, and if the discarded card was a non-land, you put a +1/+1 counter on the creature that connived. And so this blue-black deck is like sort of a blue-black control deck. It's playing the longer game for sure. Villains is a relevant type, but also just putting things in the graveyard with connive so you can use them later. That's another little theme here. So for example, Morbius, Living the Empire, has an ability you can activate from the graveyard. So you like connive this away, you exile Morbius, you draw some cards. So yeah, you can kind of see what's going on there. Card advantage sometimes cares about villains. Also, there are some cards that do things in the graveyard. So, yeah, Morbius was one example, but there are some commons, too, that you could exile from the grave to put a counter on something or give something flying. Also want to call out the card Unstable Experiment. This is a really cool one. Easy to overlook, too. 2 mana for an instant. Target player draws a card, and then up to 1 target creature you control connive. So you get a draw no matter what, plus a loot, and then sometimes a counter, too. So if you ever win a combat with this card, right? Like really, really strong. You attack in with your 3/3, they block their 3/3, you connive, draw a card, get a 1/1 counter, get a loot. Yeah, all good stuff. Next up, we've got Blue-White Modified, and I actually just came off stream and I drafted a Blue-White Modified deck. I was pretty impressed with it. So the gold cards, both solid. Spider, piloted by Penny. I mean, if I had to choose a favorite here, I think that would be it. Just, really snowballs if you can get that going. But also Wraith can be kind of explosive. And I want to call out a nice little 1-2 punch. I had multiple copies of both these cards in my deck. Aunt May plus Skyward Spider. So Aunt May is a 1-mana 0/2 that gains life whenever a creature you control enters and puts a +1/+1 counter on spiders when they enter. And Skyward Spider is a 2-mana 2/2 with Ward 2 that has flying as long as it's modified. So, Aunt May into Spider, you got yourself a 3/3 Ward 2 flyer on turn 2. Very good. That won a lot of games on its own. So yeah, not a complex theme. It was pretty straightforward, but like I said, I found it to be pretty effective. Last archetype here is Red-Black Mayhem, and Mayhem says you can cast this card for its Mayhem cost from your graveyard, but only if you discarded it this turn. So the idea here with this deck is you're looking to pair discard outlets with your Mayhem cards. Lots of discard outlets in the set, something like Masked Meower, for example, or Romantic Rendezvous. By the way, Romantic Rendezvous, interesting thing here. 2 mana, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. It doesn't say, as an additional cost to cast this card, discard a card. So, because it's worded like this, you can actually just cast this on an empty hand, no cards in hand, and draw 2 cards. So, this can actually be card advantage, kind of cool. And it's kind of similar to Web Slinging. Often your advantage, or like the thing you're getting if you get to Mayhem the card, is you get it for cheaper, right? So something like Spider Islanders here usually costs 4 mana. For the Mayhem cost, it's 2. That tends to be the case across the board. Also, a few cards that care about you discarding cards. So Hobgoblin here, for example, gets +2/+0 every time you discard a card. So yeah, this is like kind of a combo aggro deck, if you want to look at it that way. Well, let's talk fixing now. So we've got a land slot in this set, which comes up in half of your packs. So you're going to see these lands in 50% of your packs, and these are tapped dual lands that surveil one when you pay for. So there's 5 of these, 1 for each archetype, and they're actually pretty strong if you haven't played with these before, these ones that you pay mana to surveil. The way I put it is, when one person has these and the other person doesn't, when the board's kind of stalled out, the person who doesn't have the surveil land, getting through lands, finding what they need, it really feels like that they're at a disadvantage. I really like having one of these lands in my deck. There's also Vibrant Cityscape, which is just Evolving Wilds variant at common. A few rare lands, an uncommon land or 2. So fixing's there. It exists. If you want to splash, I don't recommend splashing heavily because I don't think the set really asks you to very much unless you just have a bunch of excellent rares. But if you do have a good rare or 2, yeah, the fixing is definitely there. There's a cycle of mythics that are monocolored on one side, and then the backside requires you to have 3 colors of mana to access them. So that's one reason you might want to put a 3rd color of mana in your deck. But another one is an interesting collection of rares that doesn't really have a home. So Black-White is not an archetype in this set. There's no definitive, like, here's what Black-White's doing. Also, same goes for Red-White and Blue-Red, so the enemy color pairs. But there are actually still some pretty strong rares of these colors. So Spot, Living Portal, for example. 5 mana 4/4. When it enters, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent and up to 1 target non-land permanent from a graveyard. When Spot dies, you put him on the bottom of his owner's library and the cards you exiled into their owner's hand. So really great card, right? Like buy something back from your guard, gets rid of something the opponent has, puts it back to their hand when Spot leaves. But the cool thing too is if you can web sling this, they actually don't get their card back, right? So you cast Spot, you get rid of one of your opponent's things, you web sling it back to your hand, Spot never dies, right? So they don't get their card back. Another good example here, Arana, a really good red-white gold card, so might be a reason to, splash this, or maybe even be red-white deck. It's possible. I was saying there's no, red-white or black-white archetype, but that doesn't stop you from just putting white and black cards in your deck if those are the strongest cards in your pool. Nothing against it. You won't maybe have the most synergy, but if that's where your power lies, that's where your power lies. One little tip I want to leave you with is about the card Silver Sable. So this is a 3-mana 2/3 uncommon. It says when it enters, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. When Silver Sable attacks, target modified creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. Okay, first part of the card is what we're going to focus on here. It says, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. which means the way it's worded is if you don't have another creature, you must put one on your opponent's creature. So you probably don't want to cast Silver Sable into an empty board on your side. Just a little word of caution there. I saw an opponent do this already. Anyways, that's going to do it. I hope all of you have a good time at your Spider-Man pre-release. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.